Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Jaya Guru Raya. Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki Jai. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanamastu. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar. It's become a big story. Today's story is very big. It's a true story. When I say story, it does not mean it is an imaginary story. It's a true story of His glory. We are getting glimpses of the divine life of Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan. A couple, Mrs. Indumathi and Rathnavel from Madurai. Mrs. Indumathi is the niece of Srimati Rajeshwari Amma, who is doing seva in the ashram for a number of years now. Once it happened, Mr. Rathnavel was working as a teacher who was teaching, and in so doing, his lung, the left side of his lung, got very much affected, with the result there were lesions inside and he started to vomit blood. He was also developing high fever. So when he went to see the doctor said, your left side is almost gone. You need an operation. But you are a diabetic person, so we have to do it carefully. And then he fixed a date also for operation. Mr. Rathnavel was lying down all the time, unable to do anything, unable to even get up. He was in the sick bed. Indumathi was highly agitated. She did not know what to do, but she had come to hear about Bhagwan through Srimati Rajeshwari Amma. And Srimati Rajeshwari Amma came forward to take her niece to Bhagwan. Anyway, they wanted to take Bhagwan's blessings before the operation. Srimati Indumathi had to take permission from her husband because she had to leave him in that condition, and also her mother-in-law who had to look after her husband in her absence. She managed it, and then she came with Rajeshwari Amma to Sannadhi Street house. The first day, Swami allowed them inside to be seated, but he never paid any attention to them. It looked like he did not pay attention to them. But I'm sure he was working on their problem all the time. And then the next day again they went there. Again, he allowed them inside. He kept them seated there. And nothing really happened. He did not seem to talk to them at all. But at that time a lady had come, and the lady said in front of these people, Swami, my son's vomiting has stopped, and his fever has also stopped. Srimati Rajeshwari Amma, who had been coming to Bhagwan for a number of years, knew him, could understand his language. So she felt that these comments referred to something subtle also, that it could be that her niece's husband, the vomiting might have stopped for him, the fever might have stopped for him also. She felt that Swami was enacting this drama in his presence just to tell these people that these two have happened to Rathnavel also. But the whole day went on without Bhagwan talking to them straight about anything at all. And the third day, when they were there, Swami asked very casually, what is it, Indumathi? What have we got before you? She had brought the X-ray of lungs of her husband, and then immediately she took it to Swami. Swami looked at it. scrutinized it and said, "What is the problem?" And then she said, "The left side is completely gone and the operation has to be done." They have fixed the operation and she sought his blessings for that. Swami said, "Right?" "No, Swami, it is left." "It is right." "No, Swami, this is left. It's only the left side that has been affected." So they went on insisting. They were trying to explain to him, thinking that he did not understand, and they were saying again and again, "Left, left, left," when Swami was saying, "Right, right, right." Then Swami turned to Chandrasekhar, who had come that particular day for his darshan. "Chandrasekhar, this beggar is telling right, right, but these people are saying left, left. They don't understand." And after that, he called those people, Mrs. Rajeshwari Amma and Indumathi, and gave them some fruits and packed them off. He didn't say anything. Even they felt a little bad because they had come with the idea of operation and they had come with the idea of seeking blessings for that operation. And Swami did not talk about it at all. All that she said was right. They did not understand that one word was enough. When they reached home, somewhat upset that Swami did not talk freely with them, when Indumathi entered her house, a huge surprise was waiting for her. Her husband, who was bedridden at that time when she left, was now sitting and smiling to her. And what is more, he said his vomiting, this blood vomiting had stopped. His fever also had stopped, that he was feeling much, much better. And Indumathi instantly knew, though Bhagwan did not talk to her about this problem, that his problem, whatever was wrong with him, was righted by Bhagwan, and that's why he kept on saying, "It's right, right, right." They understood only then. They were very happy, and then they went back to Bhagwan to report happily that he was cured. See, when Rathnavel went to the doctor saw once again the new x-rays after this, and he said, "Your lungs are perfect. They're completely all right. How did this happen?" They knew how it happened. So when they came back and reported to Swami, Swami said, "Okay, now you go to Madurai, near the bus stand, there is one petty shop. You go to the shop, and they have kept some magazines there. The name of the magazine is The Week. And you buy that magazine from them, and in the 55th page, some details are given. You learn and you go there. Whatever address is given there, you go there and find some medicine for your husband." So they left and they went in search of this petty shop and they found it, and true to Bhagwan's every word, they found these magazines in the shop, and then they took that particular magazine and opened it on the 55th page, and there the address was given. It's in Kerala, Padamtala Moodu, Kunnath Hospital, Dr. Kurup. So immediately they rushed to that place, and the doctor gave them a herbal powder. It's called Logatanya. And then they started to give it to him. Of course, Swami warned Mr. Rathnavel not to drive heavy vehicles, not to drive vehicles at all for some time. Now, till this day, Mr. Rathnavel is healthy, happy, and his lungs are perfect. Now, Indumathi made a vow to give sugar for the weight of Mr. Rathnavel. So they rushed to Mantralayam. Pon Kamaraj had built a temple there for Bhagwan. So they went there. It was Jayanti celebration for 3 days. And every time the Jayanti was celebrated there, Mrs. Sashireka Chandrasekhar's wife, Mrs. Sashireka, would go to Sannadhi Street house to Bhagwan and take his blessings also for the Jayanti celebration. And he would give them prasad for everyone. So this time, 2 kg sugar candy was given by him. She happily brought it to Mantralayam. And the 2-day Akhandanama was going on vigorously and rigorously. And she distributed most of the sugar candies to everybody there. There was just a few sugar candies left there in the packet, and she just kept it aside for the next day. Now that night, the second night, Akhandanama night, at about 11 o'clock, the balance had come for Thulabaram. Thulabaram is a prayer that is in which the person would sit on one plate, on the other plate, something like either bananas or rice or sugar will be given for equal weight. It will be offered to the temple. So Shri Ponkamaraj came and said, now we will have this Thulabaram. At 11 o'clock in the night, that Shri Ponkamaraj must come and insist upon this Thulabaram in itself was very strange. In any case, they wanted to do it because he had said it, and everything was getting arranged. And also Rathnavel went and sat on one of the plates. In the meantime, Indumathi had ordered for 45 kgs of sugar for this particular event. And this sugar packet had come along with other groceries from one Mr. Annamalai, who was running a grocery store. That particular night, when the cook was cooking food for all those people assembled there, there was lack of sugar. And therefore, he had opened this, not knowing this was meant for giving this equal weight. He opened it and took enough sugar that he wanted from that. And nobody knew about it. So when this Thulabaram was being given, they rushed inside and they brought that, the sack bag of sugar, and they put it on the other plate. But then it was found open, and what was more, it was up there, Rathnavel's plate was down there. It looked, they needed more sugar to equalize the plates. Immediately, they went and searched for sugar, and there was no sugar left. Because of the lack of that, only the cook opened his bag. So they could not find any sugar. Immediately they rushed. And they looked for some jaggery, the huge balls of jaggery, and they found some. And there were varieties of varieties of jaggeries there. And they brought all that and put. And still the plate would not come down. And then they tried every other sweet also, and Sashireka even rushed and looked for the chocolate packs, and she brought 2 of them, 2 heavy ones, and put them there, and the plate was still up there. The plate would not budge. Now they really have a problem in hand. They do not know what to do because it was 11 o'clock in the night, no shop would be open. They could not go buy the sugar again. So what would they do? They just could not think of anything. In the meantime, the Akhandanama was going on vigorously, because they knew that something was developing, some problem was developing, and there was no way they could solve it. So everybody was praying to Bhagavan, and they were also singing his name. And suddenly it struck Sashireka to bring the leftover sugar candies that she got from Bhagavan. We do not know what made her do that. She rushed immediately and brought the packet. And when she wanted to put it there, when she took it near the plate, just held it above that, she felt something like magnetic force pulling her hand down, and she dropped it onto the plate. And the second she dropped it, the plate come down. The plate immediately came down. Now, Mr. Rathnavel was up. The plate that was holding Rathnavel was up, but the plate that was holding the sugar candies was down, heavier than the other plate. Just imagine, people were stunned. People were overwhelmed. They were beside themselves with joy. There was such a celebration, extra celebration of this event there. They all knew how Bhagwan had enacted this drama at every level. So when Sashireka went back to Sanadi Street house and reported this miracle done by Bhagwan, Bhagwan asked her with a smile, "You think that was the only miracle? The cook did not have enough sugar. He looked for more sugar and then he found this bag and opened it and took enough of sugar that he wanted. That's also a miracle." And Pon Kamaraj came at 11 o'clock that saying the Thulabaram be done now. That's a miracle. Why would it strike him to get this done then at 11 o'clock in the night? And again, after all resources been exhausted and there was no way they could find a solution to this problem, it should strike Sashireka to rush and bring that packet of the few sugar candies. That's again a miracle. So when Swami said that, they understood that behind one miracle, there are many other miracles also which do not come into our attention. Now these miracles are happening all the time, and Swami's potent grace is doing that even now. To such grace of Swami, to such boundless compassion of Bhagwan, we shall offer our prayer now. Bhagwan, just as you righted Mr. Rathnavel's lung, just as you set the balance right by a few pieces of sugar candy, will you not please right the present situation also? This whole world, entire humanity is in the grip of this dreadful virus, going through endless problems, endless suffering. Kindly bestow your grace upon this world, free it from the clutches of this virus, and please help all these medical researchers to find the right vaccine, and what they have found, what they have announced up till now, please enter them. Unless you enter those medicines, they may not work. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanastu. We will once again have a glimpse of the divine life of Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Yogi Ramsuratkumar is none other than the absolute consciousness, the pure awareness. He is like the mirror. And whatever goes before that will be reflected by that. So people have seen him in different dimensions according to their mindset, in proportion to their intensity of love, devotion. Now here is an experience of a devotee. One Shri Thirumalai used to come with one Shri Gnanagiri Ganesan. Both of them were devotees for a number of years, very devoted to Bhagwan, and they were coming to the ashram together. Once in 1998, when the two of them came to the ashram, Swami was giving darshan in the dining hall, and they came across two young ladies from Chennai. One was a Hindu, the other one was a Christian. So when they fell into a conversation with them, the Christian girl said, yes, I came to know about Swami from this Hindu friend of mine. She was praising him to the skies. But I have to see for myself what Mahatma, what kind of Mahatma is he, whether he is really a God-man. So I have written down 14 questions from the Bible, and if he answered them to my satisfaction, I would be able to accept him as Jesus himself. So this was her talk. And then Shri Thirumalai said, okay, that's all right, but there are nearly 400 people sitting inside. I do not know whether you would get a chance to go near Swami, whether he would give you the answers at all. He is very unpredictable. You would never know what he would say next, what he would do next. But you can give it a try. Go inside. And then they went inside and sat with the crowd. It's only after the session was over, they all had lunch prasad. And after that, when Shri Thirumalai was walking towards the Yagashala, he came across this Christian girl. Her name was Mary. Mary was sitting under a tree and was crying profusely. The tears were streaming down her cheeks endlessly. He did not see her state of mind. He just approached her and made fun of her, saying, what is it you are doing? You seem to be crying. Maybe your Hindu friend deserted you, ditched you. She did not give you money to go back to Chennai. She has offered you to the ashram. She looked up, and then he sensed the state she was in. She said, Swami called both of us. We went near him. And then my Hindu friend introduced me to Swami. She also said that I had 14 questions written down in a paper. And then Swami stretched his hand, and then I just put it in his hand. All that I did was give it in his hand. And after that, I did not know what happened. Something took over. He was looking at that, he was reading out the questions, and that's all I saw. And after that, a huge grace, a huge force entered me, and I pushed me into a state of bliss. I was completely overwhelmed by this experience, waves and waves of bliss. And in that moment, he had answered all my questions. And what was more, he had opened my heart, and floodgates of love and bliss flowed from it. Until then, I was an intellectual, and I had questions and answers, and I judged everything by that. But in that moment, Swami closed my brain and opened my heart to a flood of grace, and I was completely overwhelmed by that. So saying, she could not go further, any further, and again she was drowning in the experience. Seeing all that, Thirumalai Nambi was taken aback. He was thinking, my God, I have been coming to Swami for the past 18 years and nothing happened to me. And this girl is here just for a day, and with such doubts in her mind, and with questions and all that. And Swami had blessed her with such experience. How is that I never got it from Swami? Why is that? He started to lament, and his heart was burning that he could not have this experience. Next time when he had come, he went to the dining hall. As usual, the two of them had come together, and then they went for darshan, and they were seated there. Usually at that time, Bhagavan was in Pradhan Mandir. People would come in a queue, and then they would go around the murti, and Bhagavan would be blessing them from his seat. And then they would go straight back to the dining hall, and sit there. It was 1999. And after that, Bhagavan would come out at a certain point, come out of the Pradhan Mandir, and outside he would be seated in a chair and call out to those people who had given their names for darshan, private interview. So these people had darshan of Bhagavan by going inside, and after that they came straight to the dining hall, and they were seated there. Shri Thirumalai was seated in the front row. And again his heart started to burn. And he was lamenting. He was saying, Swami, I never had any experience from you. I've been coming so long. Why is it? Why is it? And suddenly he felt a magnetic force entering him. And after that, a process started uncontrollably. And he was a mere witness to it. His whole body shook with experience, waves and waves of bliss. And he seemed to be flying in the sky, crossing many worlds, many different worlds, one after the other. As he was flying and flying high, suddenly the thought came to him, what is this? Swami is taking me to some other world. He remembered his wife and children in Kovilpatti, living a life dependent upon him. And then the fear took over. The mind, being what it is, a trickster, it projected this thought of fear, and that began to work. So waves and waves of bliss, and he is flying high, was getting attacked by this fear, and suddenly, soon, he found himself landing down with a thud. He opened his eyes. It was such a huge experience for him, beyond his imagination, beyond anything he had ever come to know. And then this fear took over, and he was back in his body. And he just looked around to see if anybody had noticed. Because the experience was so real to him, he thought people might have seen him flying. But then he saw that they were all continuing the bhajans, and nobody had noticed. There was no change of expression at all on anybody's face. And then he knew that it was a very, very private experience that he went through. It because he was asking for it with a burning heart, and Swami had given him. And just at that moment, the attendant of Swami came and said, Swami is calling Thirumalai and Gnanagiri Ganesan. So they came out of the dining hall, and then they were walking towards Swami. When they came up to the chariot mandap, nearly 70 feet distance from Swami, who was seated in a chair outside Pradhan Mandir, Thirumalai looked at Swami, and again he was flooded by a wave, a huge wave of grace, and there were waves and waves of bliss. It was an attack of Shakti. He was unable to bear. He could not look at Swami anymore, 70 feet distance from him, and still the force was so much upon him, he was unable to even look at Swami. What was more, he was reeling under the experience. He was not able to take one step more towards Swami. So he conveyed to his friend Gnanagiri Ganesan, I don't know what, something is happening to me, a flood of grace, a flood of bliss, and I can't even bring myself to look at Swami because it's increasing, and it looks like a collapse. I cannot take one more step, I cannot even look at him. Then Gnanagiri Ganesan advised him, okay, turn your face away from Swami and manage to come. Swami is calling, waiting for us. So somehow he looked away from Swami and managed to come up to 5 feet from Swami. Swami had a fruit in hand ready, and Swami was saying, come near, take this prasad. But he was still unable to look at Swami. And then Swami said, turn to me, look at me. A command from him which made him somehow turn and look. at Bhagavan. And then Swami called him near and dropped the fruit into his hand and gave him a pat, saying, it's all right, nothing happened. And then he was back again, once again, to his normal self. Just see what gifts of grace Bhagwan is ready to give us. And what do we ask for? But we know that in a fraction of a second, Bhagwan can give us that experience. And if we want more, he can still give and establish us in that also. To such Bhagwan, he is there right in front of us now in the form of Murti. And the Murti is full, infused with his power and grace. As you see, there is a smile on his lips. His eyes are up there on the Brahmarandra, drowned in deep samadhi, and yet his hand is raised in benediction, saying that I am here. The flow of grace is ever flowing from me. It's ever coming to you. Do not be afraid. I am here. I am here to help you, guide you, and protect you. We shall offer our prayers at the lotus feet of Bhagwan here. Bhagwan, there is nothing that you do not know. There is nothing that you cannot do, and there is no place where you are not. We appeal to your generosity, your boundless compassion. Please free this world from the clutches of this dreadful virus, and help all these medical researchers to find that right vaccine. You enter the vaccine and do the work of destroying this virus. This COVID scare has taken over the world completely. Only you can free us from this. And again, Bhagavan, give a boost to the falling economy and support all those steps taken by the government to improve it for their effective implementation. And Bhagavan, the great brave soldiers, at the very risk of their life, are there in the borders of your dear Bharata Bhumi in defense of the country. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanastu. Today we sang the powerful Nama of Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar in a tune which is generally sung for the Divine Mother. Today being Friday, a day devoted to Divine Mother, it automatically happened fittingly. Now this reminds me of a certain incident that took place in Sannadi Street House. Once, two ladies had come to have Darshan of Bhagwan in Sannadi Street House, and they were seated there, and they were going to go to the Divine Mother's temple after that, after visiting Bhagwan. They were very devoted to Bhagwan. So after this darshan, they wanted to go to the Divine Mother's temple and then go home. So they had come prepared for it. They had brought the coconut, the bananas, the flour, and the camphor, everything. In the meantime, when they were having darshan, Bhagwan was blessing them nicely, making conversation with them, and it took quite some time before they realized that it was getting very late and they had to go to Divine Mother's temple and offer their puja there. So they said hastily, Swami, we have to go to Mariamman temple. Immediately Swami said, oh, it is getting late for you and you have to go there. All right. You can do one thing, you offer everything, you do that puja here to this beggar. That will do. And immediately they very happily did everything, the puja, the way it should be done in the Divine Mother's temple. They did the same thing before Bhagwan. And they felt a sense of fulfillment. And Swami then left them. He said, you don't have to go there, you can go home. He said, Mariamma, the Divine Mother, has accepted your puja. Hinting that he is the Divine Mother. There's another interesting story which gives us one more glimpse of the divine dimension of Bhagwan. There is a place called Ponneri near Chennai, and there's a place called Kavarappettai near Ponneri. In Kavarappettai, there was one Gopi. Unfortunately, he is no more. Gopi was living there. He was studying to be a carpenter for the temples. He learnt the woodwork. He got trained in the woodwork meant for the temples. He was well trained in that. He came to know about Bhagwan through a friend called Manoharan, and this Manoharan took him there to Bhagwan for darshan. At that time the ashram was growing up, and they visited Bhagwan in the dining hall. They went and sat there along with the other crowd. Soon after that, Bhagwan called him. So Gopi Achari went near Bhagwan. Bhagwan had a cigarette. He just pulled out a cigarette in hand, and then he made a gesture as if he was going to offer it to him. And immediately, Gopi Achari extended both his hands to take it. And suddenly, Bhagwan dropped the cigarette and held his thumbs, both the thumbs. He held it in a very tight grip. And then Gopi Achari felt a huge power, a huge Shakti, like flood, entering into his body. And then he felt a very sharp pain. The pain was so unbearable at one point, he could not help screaming. He was screaming and screaming in pain, but Swami would not leave him. He was trying to draw away from the grip of Swami, but Swami held him even more tightly. And finally, Swami, before leaving him, said, whatever this beggar's father wanted this beggar to give you, this beggar has given you. Now you can go. And again, he repeated that. And the third time also he repeated. He pronounced it. Whatever father wanted this beggar to give you, this beggar has given. This beggar has given you everything. Now you can go. So after that, when Gopi returned to his place, Kavarappettai, he was in a very different state. The state continued. He was unable to participate in worldly affairs. His mind just would not come out. And he kept on gazing and gazing, completely lost inside in the experience he had with Bhagwan. Yogi Ramsuratkumar began to live constantly in his mind, and he could not see anything else. Seeing the state, his father was very agitated. And then he called this Manoharan who brought him to Swami. Why would you take him to such people? Just see what has happened to him. I'm very worried about him. And that night, in the father's dream, Swami appeared and said, why did you scold that Manoharan? He has done the work that was allotted to him. Gopi is my son. He will be all right. Don't bother about him. When he said that, father became very happy. He said, oh, Swami calls Gopi his son, so I don't have to worry about him anymore. Swami would take care of him. Swami appeared in the dream of Manoharan also, said, look, you don't get worried just because the father scolded you. Know that the work allotted to you by the divine has been done. You have done your duty, that's all. So they all got reconciled to that. But after some time, see, from that moment onwards, there was progress. There was all-round progress in Gopi's life. There was great transformation inside and outside. Even financially, he improved so much. But at one point, he developed piles. And it became very painful. Even blood began to come out. So he was very worried. His father was very worried. And they took him to the doctor. And the doctor said there's a tumor inside. A big tumor the size of a tomato. It has to be operated and removed. And then he fixed the date also for that. So just the day before the operation day, Gopi sent the message to Swami that he was about to be operated upon for this piles tumor. That night, Gopi had a dream. And in the dream, Swami appeared to him. He had a lamp, the Kerala type of lamp, which has right at the center a stem which would taper to a sharp end. A tapering end right in the center where the oil is poured. Swami took that in his hand, put it on fire until it became very, very hot, unbearably hot. And then Swami straight away put that in the anus of Gopi Achari. Just at that moment, out of pain, Gopi was about to scream, but the pain disappeared and he woke up. And then only he realized it was all a dream. It was so vivid, so natural, so real for him. And the next day morning, when he went to the toilet and passed motion, the tumor came out, the size of a tomato. It came out, it fell down. He was very, very happy, and he knew that Swami had done the operation on him. So it was also the day of operation for him, so he promptly reported to the doctor for the operation. And the doctor examined, and then he found out, to his surprise, he said, amazing, there is no tumor there. What happened? Somebody had operated on you. And what a wonderful job they have done. And what was more, he found there was charred pieces of flesh inside, and they came out. As though the operation truly happened. Of course, the operation truly happened, and here is the proof. The burnt pieces of flesh came out, a little, but the doctor said, some expert has done it, and he has done a wonderful job of it. Who is that? Where did you get operated? You have fixed it here, and I am supposed to do it? What happened? And then Gopi related the whole thing very happily, ecstatically, that how Swami had done that. Of course, the doctor was stunned to hear it. Not only the doctor, everyone around. So this is one more incident to show, to illustrate how Swami's grace came to the rescue of his devotee in the most difficult time of his life. Now this Swami is there right in front of us with his hand raised in benediction, and there is such grace pouring from him, and the place is vibrant and powerful. And let us offer our today's prayers at his feet. Bhagwan, there is nothing that you cannot do. You are Sarva Shaktiman. Just one glance from you, a gracious glance from you, the whole humanity will be free from this unprecedented crisis. Bhagwan, Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanastu. We shall share once again one particular incident which illustrates the divine dimension of Bhagavan. His subtle work that's going on all the time. Once when I was seated in the Sannadhi Street house in the lower veranda, in the same line as Bhagavan, Bhagavan was smoking, completely absorbed in his work. He was smoking and smoking and smoking. In the meantime, a crowd had already collected outside the Sannadhi Street house. Since I was nearer the gate, I could hear some of the conversations going on there. A group of 4 people had just arrived, and 2 or 3 of them were telling the man who took them there, who brought them there, "What is this? You said we would have darshan of a Mahatma, but what do we see here? A dirty-looking man seated there, smoking and smoking and smoking continuously, a chain smoker. And how dirty he looks. He looks like a beggar. That you should bring us all with taking such pains just to see this man? We don't want to be here. Let's go." And they were saying so many other things also, which were jarring to my ears, and I was actually boiling inside. How could they judge so easily without knowing the subtleties of his work? Whatever we see, whatever we hear, is that the only truth? There are higher truths, subtler truths behind. We live all the time in the 5 senses and we are unable to go beyond it. It is our fault, our ignorance. But then what can we do about it? So thinking, I was feeling so angry, so upset about it. And I was just looking at the ashtray of Bhagwan. It was a square with a little raised platform in the middle. It resembled so much the Homakunda, where the yajnas, the sacrificial fire, is held in all those Vedic rituals. And Swami, there was no change of expression at all on his face. He must have heard. Even without hearing, he would know exactly what is going on outside. He knew what is going on in each one's mind. But there was no change of expression at all. He continued smoking. So just when I was looking at it, the ashtray, and I was thinking how it resembled the Homakunda of Vedic ritual, sacrificial fire, just then a cylindrical burnt cigarette, a piece of cigarette, cylindrical, burnt, it just came down, rolled down from the ashtray, and it kept rolling down. Since I was seated in the lower platform and the very first one at that, I immediately held my hand and it came and dropped into my hand by itself. I was just thinking, I was so surprised because how could this happen? In all this Vedic sacrificial fire ritual, after the homa is over, after the ablutions are over, they give you the burnt, the black stuff, the burnt ashes which has turned black. They give that as raksha, as protection to us, as an assurance of the divine blessing. So this came out exactly at the moment when I was thinking that he was doing Vishwa Yagna. He was doing the sacrificial fire Vedic ritual for the sake of the entire world. This came rolling out of that and fell into my hand. I was thinking, my God, what a wonder. How could this happen? And then I looked up at him. He was smiling. He raised his hand and blessed me. What a reward. What a beautiful reward. And I think supposedly a beautiful thinking, beautiful thought. So this is how the divine rewards, according to our thoughts, according to the depth of thinking. The reward also is deep and high from the divine. Now that Bhagwan is still smoking. It's not the smoking of the kind that we could physically see. What I really mean is he is burning our karmas, our bad karmas, and giving us relief from the sufferings of the world all the time. He is here now standing in the form of his murti with a smile on his face and his raised hand in benediction. Let us offer our prayers at his feet. Bhagwan, Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanamastu. We have had the fortune of singing the powerful Nama of Yogi Ramsuratkumar right in the presence of this huge murti that you must have been. It's not heard. Just a minute. Okay. Right. Sorry. Tirumalai கேட்காமல் போய்விட்டது. Okay, this is another Leela from Swami. After hearing our Nama Sankirtan for 1 hour, before we start our prayer, we shall enjoy another glimpse of the divine life of Bhagwan, his delightful Leelas. There was one Ramanatha Bhatt, who was a district audit officer working in Salem. He met Bhagwan in 1977, and then after that began to come a constant, regular visitor to Bhagwan. In 1978, this event happened, a very delightful, very interesting event. While he was working in Salem, he made friends with some of those merchants there, and they had a recreation club. And those people planned to go to Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, Thailand, few countries there, few cities. So they invited him to join, and he readily did, but then he had to take permission from the government and also from his Gurunath, Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar. So he went for a darshan, and Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar blessed him nicely. Not only gave permission, but blessed him nicely and sent him. They visited all these places. They visited Malaysia, and then Bangkok, and then Tokyo, Hong Kong, Osaka, and the final lap of the journey, they came to Singapore, and they were going to board the plane from there to Madras. So when they had reached the airport with all their luggage and getting prepared, because very soon, in another half an hour, they would board the plane. So they were just waiting for the announcement. But suddenly, from the public addressing system, an announcement came which said that something was wrong with the plane that was to start for Madras, the failure of hydraulic brake. So it would take some time to get it right. It would take indefinitely. I mean, they could not say when that could be ready, but possibly by 3 o'clock, in which case they could board the plane at 4 o'clock. So this was the announcement, and then the airport itself arranged for all these people to go to a very good restaurant, a hotel, by the airport bus. They paid for the restaurant fees also. Everything was free for them because it was the fault of the aeroplane. So when these people reached the hotel, the merchants there, his friends, they decided to go shopping because Singapore is a paradise, shopping paradise. So they wanted to buy so many things. They had a long list. But Ramanatha Bhatt declined their offer, the offer to go with them. He wanted to enjoy the scenery. He had only a limited foreign exchange because he was a government servant. So the other thing is he wanted to enjoy the nature, the beauty of the ocean and the sky and the tall minarets. So he wanted to take a walk and see the bridge that was connecting Malaysia to Singapore. He started to walk and he was enjoying all around. In fact, he was ecstatically happy, just looking at the blue sky and the blue ocean. So in so doing, stopping here and there and looking about, enjoying himself hugely, he was walking ahead, and in so doing, he forgot himself and he overstepped into the Malaysian side. Not knowing that he had crossed the border, he was just walking ahead happily when he was suddenly stopped by an immigration officer. The officer demanded his identity card, passport, everything, and that's when Ramanatha Bhatt remembered that he had left everything in the hotel. And what was more, his ticket, he had no separate ticket because it was a combined ticket. And the ticket was with the other people. So he told them the truth. But the immigration officer understood everything sympathetically, but at the end of which, all that he said was, no matter what, we have to follow the rules. So please come with me. Now here you are without any papers, so I have to take you and produce you in a court. After that they would decide whether to retain you here and put you in a jail or pack you off to your country. They have to decide it, so come with me. Ramanatha Bhatt could not believe what was happening. He was so ecstatically happy few minutes before, and now he was suddenly thrown into a hell of his own making. He just followed him like a lamb, and the immigration officer made him sit in a cell in quarantine. It was quarantine of that day. So that is when Ramanatha Bhatt began to think of Yogi Ramsuratkumar, started to chant his name desperately. Yogi Ramsuratkumar, please save me. Get me back to the airport soon so that I could join the others. Because if he didn't go in time, those people would also be stopped. It was a combined ticket. So he felt even more miserable thinking about it. Because of him, the others would also be stopped. So he was praying and praying and praying, desperately chanting, calling out to Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Nearly an hour passed, and suddenly the chief immigration officer appeared there. He was on a sudden inspection. And he saw this man sitting in the cell alone in quarantine. He approached him and asked for the details. Ramanatha Bhatt said everything, how he just walked himself to this situation. The Chief Immigration Officer, unlike the other one, was truly sympathetic. He learned all the details, and what was more, he believed Ramanatha Bhatt. So he reprimanded him for walking like this, being very, very careless about things. And after that he said, okay, but this time we would allow you to go back to the airport, but next time when you do it, beware. This cannot happen next time. Ramanatha Bhatt was all apologies. He apologized profusely, and then the Chief Immigration Officer relented. Took him, not only that, he took him in his jeep to a restaurant, gave him some bread, jam, biscuit and tea. Unimaginable. One minute he was in heaven, and then he entered the hell, and again now he seems to have entered the heaven. The immigration officer was very friendly. This Chief Immigration Officer was very friendly, very sympathetic, and he gave him food to eat, and after that he took him in his jeep right up to Singapore border. And there his counterpart, the immigration officer, he talked to him and said, this man has to go to the airport, Singapore airport, by 3 o'clock. He cannot just walk back. So arrange for a vehicle to take him to the airport. He ordered. And just before he left him, this Chief Immigration Officer, he had a badge on his coat which read like this, Ibrahim. So his name was Ibrahim. He just handed over a Schiefer's pen as a memento for remembrance to Ramanatha Bhatt. That was the final straw. Ramanatha Bhatt began to cry gratefully for the benevolent act of this Chief Immigration Officer. He felt absolutely grateful, absolutely overwhelmed by the grace. And then of course he got into the jeep, drove back to the hotel, and when he reached there, it was 2:45 p.m. And just when he reached there, the bus from the airport also had arrived to take them all back to the airport because the plane was ready. So when he got down from the jeep, thanking the border immigration officer, the fellow travelers, all those merchants, gave him a very hard stare. They frowned upon him. They scolded him nicely. Why would you disappear like this? You could have landed us, all of us, in trouble. Why did you behave so irresponsibly? And all that. He just put up with that, smiled, because he realized his fault, and it was only Bhagwan's grace, Yogi Ramsuratkumar's grace, that saved him from a certain disaster. So they happily joined together, went to the airport, boarded the plane, and landed back in Chennai. He joined duty. He went to Vellore, where he had the headquarters. So he went there, reported to duty, and it's only after 1 week that he came to see Bhagwan. When he sat before Bhagwan and reported all the details, all the interesting details to Bhagwan, Yogi Ramsuratkumar kept laughing and laughing so much. He was only halfway through, but he forgot the last incident, the incident of Chief Immigration Officer coming and doing so much help. So Yogiji asked him, have you said everything? Yes, Swami. And then again Bhagwan asked, have you said everything? Are you sure you have not left out any detail? Yes, Swami. And then the third time again, Bhagavan would not leave until people gave the right answer, and he would just go on repeating the question. It was his manner of extracting the right reply from people. So again he went on asking, have you said everything? Have you said everything? You have not forgotten anything? And that's when he remembered the most interesting incident of the Chief Immigration Officer. Immediately, Ramanatha Bhatt rushed into the description of all those details. He was only halfway through it. Bhagwan stopped him and started to describe every detail, how the Chief Immigration Officer believed all that he said, took him in the jeep to the restaurant, fed him nicely, and again took him in his jeep up to the border, and there how he arranged for a vehicle to take him to the airport. And then, of course, Ramanatha Bhatt was stunned. He just looked at him, at Bhagwan, gaping at him, because he could not believe that Bhagwan was giving every detail as if he was present there, personally. Of course, he was present there. How did he miss the detail? The Chief Immigration Officer was none other than Yogi Ramsuratkumar himself. It dawned on him only then. And Bhagwan asked him, was his name Ibrahim? There was a badge on his coat with the name Ibrahim? Yes, Swami. Did he give you any gift? A sheepher's pen? Yes, Swami. Did he arrange for a jeep to take you to the airport? Yes, Swami. And then Ramanatha Bhatt could not say anything anymore. He just got up and fell at his feet, held on to his feet and cried his heart out. Swami, it is you who came and rescued me from a certain situation. I could have been thrown into jail. No idea when I would have been released from there. Swami, how you saved me? What can I do for you? How can I ever thank you enough for the grace? He cried happily this time, and Swami accompanied it with an uproarious laughter. Such is the grace, such is the boundless compassion of our Bhagwan, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, coming to rescue of the devotees who call out him. Whether you are a devotee or not, whether you have devotion or not, whether you have faith or not, whether you have concentration or not, the minute you call out his name, he is there ready to help you. This invisible companion, even now, ever ready to help us, guide us, protect us, at the mere calling out. He is here, right in front of us, our Bhagwan, with a smile on his lips and eyes completely lost in samadhi, but the hand raised in benediction. And the hand says, I am here, why do you fear? And there's a flow of grace continuously from his hand for all those who seek succor and solace from him. We shall appeal to him, to this boundless compassion. Our prayer for the world. Bhagavan,